Long time.
I think I left just before the recession. Something like that.
2008.
Hello, everyone. Welcome,
Well, actually, it was
welcome. Thank you
2010.
so much. We appreciate your attention. We appreciate the quiet in the room. Thank you, Starlin. Welcome to the Los Ranchos Mayoral Candidate Forum. Thank you, everyone in the room, and thank you, everyone online, for joining us to learn more about the Village of Los Ranchos and the candidates for mayor. My name is Trish Lopez, and I will be moderating the panel this evening on behalf of the League of Women Voters. Thank you to the Village and their staff, Henry, Mark, and Darnell, for co-hosting with us tonight. Before we start, please, everyone, turn off your cell phones and any other device that makes sound. That includes the candidates. No exceptions, people. Thank you.
Is a mouse a device?
The candidates for Mayor of Los Ranchos in alphabetical order are Gilbert L. Benavides, Jody Craig, Donald T. Lopez, and George E. Radnovich. Thank you all for agreeing to share some time with us and to help educate us on your positions, on your candidacies. Please join me in welcoming them. Assisting us this evening are league members, Starlin Brown, our timekeeper, Linda Miller, our other timekeeper. Joining us here, doing the questions and reviewing the questions and getting all that sorted is Karen Wentworth. And from the Village, Henry Lopez. Thank you so much, you guys. The League of Women Voters. Woo! The League of Women Voters, if you all aren't familiar, is a nonpartisan, nonprofit political organization whose membership is open to both men and women over the age of 16. The League was founded in 1920, and our mission is to encourage informed and active participation in government and to influence public policy through education and advocacy. The League neither supports nor endorses a party or any political candidates. Outside of this room, the League has copies of its political directory, Who's Who. Please take one, consider becoming a member. Very active nonprofit, does great work in New Mexico. And the League's voter guide to the candidates and all of your ballot questions are always available online, LWVCNM, League of Women Voters, centralnewmexico.org. The rules for tonight's forum will be as follows. Each candidate gets a 2-minute opening statement. I will then ask questions of each candidate. Up to 90 seconds they will get to respond. Those questions will be included from those that the audience submits, those that the people online submits, and those that the hosts submit. Because this is not a debate, rebuttals by the candidates to each other's answers will not be allowed. We will strictly enforce that. Candidates, you do not have to use all your time for your responses. The less time you take and the quicker you get to the point, the more questions we can ask. Our goal is to provide you, the voters, as much information as possible, so we will try to ask as many questions as time allows. Candidates will then be allowed 2 minutes for their closing statement. Candidates are not allowed to have or use any visual aids like a cell phone, laptop, anything like that. This is a candidate forum. It's to educate and inform all of you. This forum is not a rally or a campaign event. So the audience, please do not disrupt the proceedings with applause and boos and stomping your feet and all the things. We really want to get to know the candidates, and all of that pausing to allow for applause and all the things, it ends up taking time away. By the end, you've lost 2 or 3 opportunities to ask questions. So index cards are available at the sign-in table in the lobby if you didn't already see them, or from the volunteers in the room. Please write your question on an index card. If you have more than one question, use more than one index card. We'll do our best to organize, but it's a lot happening in a small amount of time. And then you can raise your hand or bring your index card to these folks here. I will ask the candidates as many questions about as many issues as we can. And please don't direct any questions to any one candidate. This isn't to attack or benefit one person. This is to ask every candidate what they think about a particular issue. Please submit them as early as you can. Everyone, let's respect the candidate's time and the rest of the audience to refrain from all those noises. And I'm confident that we will all respect the rules and everything will go beautifully. Candidates, the timekeeper, they are the most important people in the room. You may not ignore the timekeepers. They will alert you of the time remaining for your answers. You must stop talking when she holds up the sign that says stop. If you keep going, she will ring a bell and I will stop you. No exceptions. About 10 minutes before we end the forum tonight, we will close the Q&A portion and move on to the candidates' closing statements. So let's get started. Before the forum, the candidates drew numbers, and Mr. Joe Craig will be presenting his opening remarks first. Joe.
Thank you. Thank you. It's good to see you all. Thank you all for coming out. We've all worked together in the past in Los Ranchos. I have been working for over 20 years. I am a native North Valleyan, grew up on 5 acres over at 2nd and Osuna. I love this area. I think the best thing that's come out of this is we've all got to know each other. What a great community, and I think we're going to preserve that. I was out walking in our open space this morning, the Del Norte open space. Marvelous. The village is replanting trees out there. There was a flock of crows flying. I saw 12 ducks in our acequia. Fabulous place. I really enjoy our community. One good thing that's come out, and we haven't talked about it in the past, is that the NMDOT is going to be doing a sound study on Paseo. We have sound problems throughout our village from the traffic. A lot of you, if you live in a mile or mile and a half north or south of Paseo, you know it's a problem. So good day. It's a beautiful day. Thank you all for coming out.
Thank you, Joe. The next person to answer will be Gilbert Benavides.
Yes, yes, I'm Gil Benavides, running for mayor. Thank you to the League of Women's Voters for sponsoring this event. I was born, raised, and educated in Albuquerque. I got a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering from UNM. My big break was getting accepted to Stanford University, where I got my master's degree, and that enabled me to return back to New Mexico and work at Sandia Labs for a great number of years. That's where I met my wife, Linda Garcia Benavides, who happened to live in Los Ranchos and was raised here. So I lived in Los Ranchos since 1984, and this is where we raised our 3 children. They all went to Los Ranchos Elementary. I did hands-on science for all the kids in all the classes for several years, and I did that as a volunteer, okay? At Sandia Labs, I worked to develop products for our national security. These products require long project plans, very involved project plans with schedules and budgets, and I know something about project plans. As soon as you write one down, they change very rapidly. So I will create a 1 to 4 year plan so you know exactly what I intend to do. I don't need a master plan to tell me that traffic is a problem here, parking is a problem, and safety, people are concerned about that, and I don't need that master plan to tell me that we don't want big box apartments and big box retail stores. I restore trust because I conduct myself in a trustworthy manner. The successful actions I have taken as your public servant is call for moratorium in high density in C1, call for moratorium in conservation development so that we could fix those things. At our wineries, I did a lot of things to ease the burden of the wineries with loud amplified music, off-street parking, and large events. This is what I will do. I will improve 4th Street all the way to Ortega, improve safety and mitigate traffic by further increasing officers in our village. Thank you.
Thank you, Gil. Next, we have George Radnovich. George.
Thank you for having this event, and thank you all for coming. My name is George Radnovich, and I am running for mayor. And the reason I'm running for mayor is I want to get us moving in a positive direction again. And I think I have the skills to do that. By trade, I'm a landscape architect and a planner. What we do is we make the world a better place. We make it more pretty. We make it more environmentally sound. We work to educate people through the landscapes. I did the master plan for the biopark. I'm working on the Heritage Farm right now. I did the plan for the Bukeki open space, which I'm sure many of you enjoy. I'm not a politician, and until now, I never called myself one, and I have a hard time calling myself one even now. To get it out of the way early, I did work on the Palindrom project. What I did is the landscape on the Palindrome project. I'm not the developer. I'm not the architect. I didn't work on the site plan. I did nothing but the landscape design. I did work to pull the buildings back, believe it or not, from 4th Street, and they're double the distance that code calls for on 4th Street side, among others, on the Osuna side as well. Again, I want to be a mayor because I think in some ways the reason that I want to be mayor is because I worked on that project. And I understand site planning, I understand code, I understand all of the things that a city and a village are required to do because I've worked on the inside and the outside. And I'm running for mayor to work on a comprehensive plan as well. We have a master plan right now. Master plans hold no water with the state. Comprehensive plans do. And so we're going to get a comprehensive plan going. And they work to make a logical end and a logical terminus for what we want to do as a village. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Last, we have Don.
Good evening, everybody. I am the current mayor of Los Ranchos and have been since the unfortunate, tragic passing of Larry Abraham on May 6, 2018. Was a trustee for 26 years, mayor pro tem for 18. I live in the village. I love the village. I will do everything in my power to keep Los Ranchos as rural as possible. There is an accusation out there in the media that I am the architect of the 4th and Osuna project. Unfortunately, Mr. Joe Craig is more of an architect of the Village Center Zone than Mayor Lopez could ever have been. I was not the mayor prior to May of 2018. On August 29th, 2016, there was a special meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission. There were 7 commissioners there. Mr. Craig was one of them. Those 7 commissioners were the most talented and basically knowledgeable individuals about planning that we've ever had in the village. Joe Brawley was one of them. There were 10 motions made at that meeting. They all passed 7-0. Therefore, the late mayor took that, and on January 10th of 2018, 4 months before he passed away, he signed the Village Center Zone amendments. What that really means is those 7 planning and zoning commissioners and the late mayor were the real architects of that project, because that project is being constructed today essentially right to the code. And so that's the reason why. There's one other accusation out there, and it talks about Guadalupe and Chavez. The Guadalupe and Chavez development contains 3 acres of open space and 16 homes. Last week, the district court rejected the Friends of Los Ranchos appeal without a hearing. And if you ever read that decision, it'll be very clear to you why it was rejected. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Let's move to our first question. What distinguishes you from the other candidates? We'll start with Gil.
Well, my vision, and in particular 4th Street. I want to improve 4th Street all the way to Ortega, make sure it has the village character that we want. I think we got the momentum going. It would be foolish to slow it down. We wouldn't get it back. I know people are worried about there being 3 lanes and the traffic. However, the more people we keep off of 4th Street, the more they will stay on 2nd Street to cross the river, and it makes it safer for us to walk, and we encourage the businesses that we want to be there. I also want to make the village a fun place with music and art. The Agri-Nature Center is something that we can better leverage to our local farmers. Events are a big deal in the village, and I think we can better connect and with those events to the Agri-Nature such that they directly benefit from those events. Thank you.
Thank you. George? And a reminder that all the candidates have 90 seconds to answer all of our questions.
Could you repeat it again?
I sure can. What distinguishes you from the other candidates running for mayor in this election?
I think part of what distinguishes me from the other candidates is that I've worked on either side of government. I've done a lot of work for cities and towns throughout New Mexico. I do a lot of research into how cities and towns and villages work. So I think that's the biggest thing. I think I also am a very good listener, and I think I would listen to everyone and try to make a village that is open to discussion about anything we have going before us. So you would get a great listener and someone who's going to take those ideas and run with them. I also consider myself a pretty visionary person. I would also work on the Agri-Nature Center because it's so close to the village the city open space and the new Anderson Fields that we just bought. So all of those together really need to be master planned. The other thing I think is important about open space is that our open space tends to be visual, not as much usable. So I think we need trails through our open space. I think we need to make them more accessible to people, and we need to make them more than just a visual quality within the village. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Dawn. What distinguishes you from the other candidates running for mayor?
My experience, I've been a trustee for 26 years. I saw the fight that went on with the Montano Bridge. I don't want to see the village being dragged down by lawsuit after lawsuit. I was mayor pro tem for 18 years. I was directly under Larry Abraham for 14 of those years. Been mayor 5.5 years. My vision is to create a community that can be engaged. And obviously, we've had trouble with that in the last few years because people were not, for whatever reason, when all those meetings occurred with the updates on Palindrom, with the pilot project, there were no complaints. There were no lawsuits between May 6th of 2018 and the summer of 2022. But since that time has occurred, it has become crystal clear to me, this community needs significant community engagement. And I promise to do that. I have the experience to do it. As a fiscal manager, let me tell you what I've done. There was $7 million in our budget in May of 2018. Today, there's $11.5 million in our budget, and we just bought the Anderson Fields. It cost us $8 million. We spent $9.5 million on 4th Street. So when it comes to managing our finances, doing things right, I can do it. I've done it for 30 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Joe?
Thank you all. 20 years ago or so, or a little more than that, we started a neighborhood association because we weren't being listened to by the village of Los Ranchos. Our neighborhood association has murals. We've worked with P&M. We've worked with ABCWA, the Water Authority. We have ponding. We have French drains. We have the bridge over Paseo del Norte, the pedestrian bridge. This is our little neighborhood. Our first big project was the Del Norte open space, and Shirley Green, my neighbor, and I came to the village, and we presented to the trustees. I had talked to the mayor. I said, Mayor Larry Abraham, God bless him, I said, I've got a great idea. Let's buy open space and preserve the village. And he said, good. So we bought 20 acres. Thank you. And 20 acres, he said, and it's now 50 because we've been able to expand it with NMDOT and Burnco. And he said, by the way, I've got an idea. Let's buy the Anderson Field. That's the Agri-Nature Center. And I led the drive for that, for the bond. That's a beautiful spot. We led the drive for the bond that recently paid for the Patty Anderson and Maxie Anderson Field. We've got more. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. By the way, I asked the candidates if I could call them by their first name. I'm not just taking that liberty. The first audience question: how will you support the over 600 LGBTQ plus citizens of Los Ranchos, especially with a Pride event? This question will start with George.
Especially with the what? What was that word?
Especially with a Pride event?
Oh. Right. I think one of the best events we have in the village is the Pride event that we already have. I am a huge supporter of the LGBTQ movement, and I think everybody needs to be looked at with the same level of care and clarity and decorum. I don't have any issues with anything close to actually any kind of bigotry. I was raised in a town that that had a big diversity of population, demographics, a big diversity of income, and a big diversity of ethnic groups and various kinds of people. So I think I would promote them in any way that I could. I'd also, I guess, like to mention that my company is very much a company that includes and is inclusive to every type of person that there is in the world, from ethnic group to queer and LGBTQ members.
Thank you. Don?
Yes. Up until 2021, LGBTQ used to have a pride event in the village. I made a mistake. I was talked into demanding that they pay a fee for use of that facility over there where they wanted to have the event. I should have looked at this from a much larger perspective. The LGBT community is really an important community, and they mean a lot to us and to all of us. They're important people. So that will not happen again. If they come to me and say we want to have an event, I'm going to support it. If I have to pay for it myself, I will support it. Mr. Trustee Gil Benavides and Trustee Sandra Pacheco and I did that. We actually paid for the event in 2021 out of our own pockets. I made a mistake. It will not happen again. Thank you.
Thank you. Joe?
Thank you. I'll hearken back to my neighborhood. I feel like we're one of the most diverse groups in the village. It's a great place. I don't talk about what people are, what they feel, what their cares are, and their cares. We are Village of Los Ranchos. I care about our village. I care about all of our people. I've chatted with the folks that we're putting this event on. We tried to help. We suggested to the trustees in the village that it be promoted, and thank goodness it got paid for us, but thank you.
Gil?
One thing nice about living on Guadalupe Trail is you live among a diverse neighbors, and you get it right away. All the demographics, I think, are represented on Guadalupe Trail. And so this is a great community. I think the LGBTQ community should have just as much access and freedom as anyone of us do. They should be protected. If there's any hatred thrown in their direction, there needs to be a response. That is totally unacceptable. All my life, I've been very inclusive with all kinds of people, working with them, socializing. I have no issues with them, with anybody of any color or thank you, or any other type of people. So I don't know what else I can say, but they're just part of our community, and I am happy that we're all living together. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Okay, moving on to the next question. I think everyone is curious about development and the Palindrom project. So I know there's a lot everyone can say, and I know it's hard to fit it in 90 seconds. So let's start with, how would you resolve the parking issues raised by the Palindrom project? Let's start with Don.
There are 425 parking spaces in the entire development. It meets the village center code, but that's not the most important issue here. If additional parking is required, or if we have to work with Palindrom to amend the development agreement so that we can get additional parking because we find out that there isn't enough, I'm not sure there really isn't, but on the other hand, we need to find out. And so I'm completely open to amending that agreement if at all possible. And I think Chad Reneker, the man who runs that project, I think he will agree with me. But that's the problem. The village center zone tells you exactly how many parking places you're supposed to have. So if a developer comes forward to the village and says, I'm going to meet your code, You can't say no, but that doesn't mean it's right. So you've got to figure out what is going to work. If it doesn't work, then you fix it. It's that simple, and I will fix it, whichever way, whatever it takes. Thank you.
Okay, next, for the same question, how would you resolve parking issues raised by the Palindrom project? Joe.
Thank you. Parking is huge. I want to correct one statement by the mayor. I am not an architect. I'm very proud of the work that I did on 5 years on our planning and zoning. I worked extremely hard to keep the density down. What was one of the main statements for a year and a half of the 5 years that I worked on the commission was a 5 to 6 story building. I stopped that. I'd go home on the evenings after planning and zoning. My wife Pam had said, "Why are you doing this?" Because I said, we've got to preserve our village. I insisted that the administration bring in a planner, Susan Henderson from Placemakers. They brought her in. She listened to us for 3 months, talk about density and how to manage that. She said, you cannot have that type of density without a parking structure, underground parking structure, and that will raise your market rates too high. I was very proud. We kept the height density down. We have a new developer that came in and he's doing horizontal density. We're probably going to have to give our neighborhoods parking stickers. This is awful. Thank you.
Thank you. Gil.
Yes, I'm very much concerned about the parking issue, in particular about the residents that surround that development. I'm very worried that we'll find people parking in the residential areas, and I hope it doesn't come to us having to give people parking passes to park in their own neighborhoods. And what do you do about visitors that want to come and visit? So I think we need to use whatever leverage we have to get Palindrom to come up with more parking spaces. We do have a development agreement in place. They've what you see with the apartments occupies 3 sites. We have 3 additional sites. I think the mayor would agree that we presently own those sites.
Correct.
And but there's a development agreement in place, and there's verbiage in there that keeps them developing those other places because on one hand, they could develop the apartments, make their money, and leave without doing the grocery store and the small hotel. And so there's a lot of different ways to look at it, and it's kind of tangled in a mess with this development agreement, and we need some legal counsel on how to get through that. But if it means the village has to buy property for additional parking, maybe that's what we do.
Thank you, Gil. George.
I think the first thing we need to do is, as that project comes to fruition and gets built and gets occupied, I think we need to watch very carefully if the parking situation starts to impact local neighborhoods. Gil mentioned permit parking like they have around UNM. That may be something we need to come to. I don't know. I think I'd also ask Palindrom to give us a plan for that interim step, because as you know, if the other phases of the project gets built much later than the apartments get built, there's not going to be enough spaces in the apartments. So Palindrom needs to tell us how the parking is going to be handled in that interim between when the apartments are built and when the rest of the project is built. I also think we need to work with ABQ Ride, because ABQ Ride, as you may know, just cut their services. A lot of apartment dwellers use ABQ Ride and use the bus system. So the services, I believe, ends at 6. Not everyone gets home at 6. And I think we need to fix that. So I'd work with ABQ Ride as well. I think that's it.
Okay, thank you. So the 4th question, please describe, gentlemen, the most challenging ethical dilemma that you have encountered and how did you handle it? We will start with Joe.
The most challenging ethical dilemma that I've ever met.
Yes, sir.
I would say that was stepping up 2 years ago for our village, and the village center that we planned was a center, a plaza. How do we fix that? It's become a housing complex, and you're hearing issues about the problems. I think we, as a Friends of Los Ranchos and myself, stepped up with lawsuits. A great deal of you are Friends of Los Ranchos. You've contributed money. We feel ethically that we have to protect our village. I feel ethically that I have to. We're in district court. We have open meetings acts that have not been complied with in the village. We're asking a district court judge to help decide what to do with all of these issues. I don't know, but we're going to find out. Thank you. Thank
you. Gil, please describe the most challenging ethical dilemma you've encountered and how did you handle it?
I believe I'm an ethical person. Looking back, I don't think I've done anything that's unethical. I think my biggest ethical challenge is right now running for mayor, because there's accusations flying, there are untrue things being said, like secretive meetings with me and the attorney, and that, we must be getting paid under the table. It just outright lies, and Joe Craig using a photo of my daughter in an ad against me. And so ethically, I feel like I should ignore it, but again, I do feel like I also need to respond to those sort of things, because this is not something that I'm used to having to tolerate, and it's just unbecoming of a candidate who's running for mayor to behave in this manner. Thank you.
George.
I consider myself I have high integrity. I don't believe I've ever done anything unethical. It's been very difficult the past few years being accused of, working with the Palindrom project against village values. And that's been hard on me emotionally. However, I don't believe I did anything wrong. And there's been so many accusations floating around the village that I did. And so I think this has been the hardest thing and probably the closest I've come to wondering if I'm actually ethical or not, because I don't believe I am. I followed all of the rules. So I guess I'll leave it at that. I don't really consider myself an unethical person. I don't know that I've ever done anything unethical in my life.
Thank you. Don.
As a 36-year veteran of the United States Air Force, I served in the Gulf War. I have followed in my 49-year career as an engineering consultant, as a state employee, and as a 31-year elected official in the village of Los Ranchos, and also as an Air Force reservist for the last 25 years of my career. During that entire time, I have followed the Air Force core values: service before self, integrity first, and basically excellence in all we do. What that means is, and I'll put it in perspective, people have told me around the village that I'm getting megabucks from Palindrom. No, I'm not getting anything from Palindrom. I will not accept a campaign contribution from them, nothing. I've been working as the mayor for 5.5 years for $5.77 an hour. I don't need money from Palindrom or anybody else. I don't owe anybody anything. So the ethical dilemma is being accused of taking money from, somebody in the village is horrific, because I'm an ethical person. I've been doing that for 49 years. As a state employee, as an elected official, as an Air Force officer, that's the bottom line. Thank you.
Thank you. George.
I already,
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm on to the next question.
You weren't ethical.
This is along those lines.
but I've thought a few other things. Just kidding.
As mayor, how would you resolve any potential conflicts of interest? Let me give you an example. Hypothetically, you have a neighbor who's lived next door to you for years, and unfortunately, they've been cited for a code violation, right? They contact you to see how they can get out of it. How would you handle it? Let's start with Gil.
Well, we're not fixing any tickets here, you know. Everybody gets treated the same, and we have a code enforcement officer, and if he drives by, spots an issue, the same process for him or even for me, if they saw something going on that I wasn't supposed to do. Tough luck for me, right? Tough luck for him. That's just how it is.
Okay, thank you. George.
I have no conflicts of interest that are illegal. I have recused myself every time that the Palindrom project has come up, and that's because I worked for them, did the landscape design for them. But if I did have a conflict of interest, I would back away from whatever responsibility I had. If it got very bad, I'd probably leave office. But I don't foresee anything like that, and I would handle conflicts of interest in as calm and as law-abiding a way as I could.
Thank you. Don.
I have absolutely no conflicts of interest in doing my job. I've had the situation you described occur to me. One of my neighbors wanted to build a shed, wanted to get that shed inside of the setbacks that were required. And I told that neighbor, I'm building a shed. I must meet the setbacks because I'm the mayor. I have to do that because those are the village center rules. Not village center, but the village code ordinances. So basically, I had to go to the neighbor's house and say, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna be able to help you. You build your shed with the setbacks as I have done on my property, and if you don't do it, we'll take action against you. That's the bottom line. Thank you.
Thank you. Joe.
Thank you. I think what we really need is a code of ethics in the village of Los Ranchos. The state of New Mexico does that, other government agencies. We need to disclose at any point, any time, any conflict. We have not been doing that. We are asking the village to comply with 21 violations of village ordinances right now. We hope that will happen. This is a big deal. I think we need that. I think we need term limits on our trustees and mayor. We need a village that is, again, vibrant and open and inviting people to come and talk to us and participate. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, gentlemen, how should the village move forward on the issue of affordable housing? We will start with George.
Affordable housing, I think, in the village of Los Ranchos is going to be a sticky, moving forward, it's going to be a sticky issue to deal with. Home prices and land prices in the village of Los Ranchos are higher than anywhere else in the city, or in the vicinity, I should say. Probably Corrales is the only place that has a higher land value or value of building of homes. I think affordable housing needs to be relative in the village. It's a way that we need to get more young people into the village. Our demographic is quite old, and we need to be able to make things as affordable as we can for them. I don't have a silver bullet for affordability in the village, so I think I'll leave it at that. It is something that we need to bring to the population and see what is the right approach to take in the village of Los Ranchos.
Thank you. Don, how should the village move forward on the issue of affordable housing?
Well, let me go back 7 years. The late Mayor Abraham wrote in the 2016 Village Vision, 2 years before he passed, "I also heard from our residents that housing was a long-term concern, specifically creating the opportunity for more affordable housing for all ages. This would include housing for the millennial generation as well as housing for residents who want to downsize and retire in smaller homes in Los Ranchos." Here's the problem. There's 3 sets of plans over there in planning and zoning right now. These homes range between 5,000 and 7,000 square feet. The value of those homes is between 1.5 and 3.5 million. So if you have that kind of money, there's no problem with buying a house in Los Ranchos. But what about the average person? It's nearly impossible. I, like George Radnovich, do not have the silver bullet, but I'll do this. I'll work with the Citizens Advisory Committee that I created last year. We're going to continue that. And hopefully, with all of the talent that we have in the village of Los Ranchos, we can come up with some kind of an answer to this problem, because the average home in Los Ranchos is almost $700,000 per home. Very few people can afford that, very few. Thank you.
Thank you. Joe?
Thank you. I've been asked that question. I've been asked it as housing crisis. I believe that's coming from a man that I know, Todd Clark, who's a realtor, great guy. He said we're 40,000 houses short a few years ago. Now it's 30,000 houses, affordable housing. These are subsidized by the government. Okay, if you drive up on San Pedro, there's probably 4,000. You drive up to the west side, to Rio Rancho, I'll bet there's another 4,000 or 5,000. We are a unique village. We are not only just a village, but a community. We have destination businesses, and I bet a lot of you have not heard that. That's from both Larry Abraham and myself talking about what we have here. We bring people in from 20 to 30,000 people, and probably 20 miles away, to buy things that are in our village. If we do tons of housing, our traffic goes away. We don't have the infrastructure. We don't have the infrastructure, the roads to support that. People will not come down here, and our businesses will not get businesses. Look on 4th. I mean, that's what we've got, is destination businesses. The rest of them, I name off 60 of them. That's what we need to look at. Thank you.
Gil, how should the village move forward on the issue of affordable housing?
I will start with this. It is not our job to build affordable housing for Albuquerque. However, I do worry about our aging population and our schools. In particular, Los Ranchos Elementary is very dear to me, and I would like to see young people in the village. So what do we do? Well, and yes, let me also say housing costs have jumped up probably by like 50% from pre-pandemic to today. Maybe there's going to be market corrections. With interest rates keep going up, I think maybe that'll do something and correct the market, but probably not by much. It's always going to be a very expensive place to live. There's really not a whole lot to do about that, but there might be some opportunities in the C1 district to build smaller scale apartments, smaller scale townhomes, nothing 3-story, 2-story at the most. If we were able to annex property along El Pueblo north of 2nd Street, maybe there's some opportunities there. I don't know if that's even possible, but there's, it's one of those problems that's just over constrained, and we do what we can do, and we hope young people will come to the village and live here. It's just a tough thing.
Okay, thank you. Next question. So these next 2 are going to be about 4th Street particularly, but we're going to focus on horses first. Are horses welcome on 4th Street now? What will future 4th Street plans mean for horse riders? And we are starting with Don.
Well, we have the most beautiful streetscape in New Mexico that's a half a mile long from Schulte Road to Pueblo Solano. The remainder of the road is being designed. But at the end of the day, there will be many more public meetings to decide what is it that we really want on that remainder of 4th Street. The problem that we have is that the cost of construction is going up 10 to 30% every year. So today, the way the project is designed, it's a $27 million project. If we delay that project a couple of years because we want to redesign it, it's going to cost $45 million. Where are we going to get that money? Now, the roadway, the way it's designed, I believe can accommodate horses, bikers, walkers. But I want experts to tell me whether that's the actual truth or not. We're being told by our design consultant that yes, it will work. I might have to get a peer review on that. I want to make sure it works. I want to satisfy everybody in the village. It has to be walkable, bikeable, you name it. It's got to be safer. It has to have a lower speed limit. All of that plays into the fact. But the cost of construction today on roads is skyrocketing. That's our #1 problem. Thank you.
Joe, are horses welcome on 4th Street now, and what will future 4th Street plans mean for horse riders?
Going back to when I grew up on 5 acres, I had horses. I learned to ride before I learned to ride a bicycle. I've ridden on every road in Los Ranchos. I would not ride a horse on 4th Street. I am not in favor of that. We need other trails. We have acequias. That's another problem working with the Conservancy District because there are conveyances for water, ditches. But I believe we have to have different trails. My father founded the Bernalillo County Sheriff's Posse, which is where the rail runner station is. It's now out on North 2nd. I've been working with them, talking with them. How do we preserve the Sheriff's Posse and our equestrians? We need dedicated trails. We have one on the clear ditch along the river. We have one on Alameda. We need protection for horses, and I'll go to bicycles for that as well. This is important. Our equestrian, our rural, we have, I think, 6 businesses. Dan's Boots and Saddles, fabulous destination business that depends on our rural atmosphere, horses and chickens and all the good stuff. Thank you.
Thank you. Gil, same question.
Well, I mean, in this state, I think you can drive a tractor on all of our roadways, so I suppose you could ride a horse on all our roadways. There's a difference about whether you can or you want to. I don't know why they would want to do that when we have so many other places where they can ride horses. When I first moved to the village in 1984, I would see a lot of people riding horseback on Guadalupe Trail. It's a pretty rare thing that I see that anymore. I wish it would come back. Horses are what I would call organic traffic calming devices, right? You know, that and the guinea hens, right? They'll slow you down pretty quickly. But there's so many other wonderful places to ride horseback in the village, and I do see people taking advantage of that. I just wish they'd come back to Guadalupe Trail as well. Thanks.
Okay, and George.
I think the right-of-way in 4th Street really precludes horses from riding in it. It's also a very dangerous place for a horseman or an equestrian to ride. So I think that's tough. But I mean, it's tough to include. But I think we can arrange routes from the parts of the village that are more rural than 4th Street, that horses can enter that area in a safer way. The only places I've ever seen horses are either on acequias, and that can be dangerous for the horse, or on some of the less traveled streets like Guadalupe Trail. And so there are ways into the 4th Street neighborhoods from those locations, from the Chamizal lateral, that would allow horses to come in a safer way. Maybe we also include stall parking in the back of properties instead of along the front, so that equestrians can come and visit 4th Street and ride there on the acequias or on side streets and get there safely. But I wouldn't allow or I wouldn't expect to allow horses to ride on 4th Street. They're just not it's not a place for horses.
Thank you, gentlemen. Along those same lines, the next question, what is your vision of the next phase of 4th Street? We will start with Joe.
My vision of the next phase of 4th Street. 4th Street is historic Route 66. I don't know if you guys knew that. I was talking to folks the other day. Pre-1937, Route 66. My parents drove in from Dalhart, Texas, in a Model A sedan, a homemade travel trailer, and my 18-year-old sister, she was a baby, they were Ken Burns' Dust Bowl folks. That we have a Facebook page for historic Route 66. We've got 3,000 people on it. It's a great marketing. So the next phase, we need to keep it rural. We've got to figure out with traffic studies how to slow folks down. It's a wonderful business developer for our destination businesses, and we can do it. But we spend $45 million and turn it into a super highway, and holy smokes, it's scary. It's scary now. We've got to take care of our people and our businesses. Thank you.
Thank you. Gil, what is your vision of the next phase of 4th Street?
Well, my grandparents moved from Anton Chico to this area through and came on what would be Route 66 by covered wagon in the early 1900s. And so, yes, I get it. It's an historical road, and the people here have used it as part of the Camino Real, and this has meant a lot of things to a lot of people over the centuries. And so my vision for 4th Street is to respect village character, see small shops come in, small retail kind of places, restaurants, have music and art there. You know, we're starting to see a little bit of this, you know, like Kelly Joe's and Hops Brewery and Color Wheel Toy Store, the Los Ranchos Bakery, those kind of places. We like to see more of that. And so we want to make it safe. And when people enter the village, either from the north or the south, it will look different. The landscaping will be different. You will know you are in the village, and you will know you are at a destination, and you will feel like parking and walking around and being and visiting our village and seeing all the wonderful things that we have here. Thanks.
Thank you. George, your vision, next phase, 4th Street.
My vision remains the vision that I designed when I did the master plan for 4th Street before the phase that the mayor was talking about was done. What we envisioned was a more rural approach to the northern part of 4th Street. We envisioned a graveled or a crusher fines trail, not a highway with landscaping. And because it's using DOT money, it is going to be more like a highway. It's not going to be the same kind of approach as the part of 4th Street that exists now that was just done that we did. It can't just be a highway with landscaping. It's got to plug into the land uses surrounding 4th Street. And it's got to exude village character, which it's not going to do. The radii on the street corners are going to be wider to accommodate NMDOT guidelines. The street lanes are going to be wider. It's going to be like the part of 4th Street from Sadie's to the village center without curbs and with some landscaping. It's not going to be an inviting place for people to be.
Thank you. Don, your vision on the next phase of 4th Street.
Well, as I said a moment ago, we have the most beautiful roadway in New Mexico for that half mile that we finished in 2019. The problem that we have is that 4th Street project carries 11,000 to 16,000 vehicles per day to Alameda and coming back. So what we did is we reduced the lanes to a 3-lane roadway with a center turn lane. We want to have sidewalks. We want to have landscaping. Now, if you just go out there and you put gravel surfacing, I don't think that's gonna be safe. That's my personal opinion. But obviously, if a future mayor says, we want gravel surfacing, that's what they'll put down. It'll be cheaper. Will it last? But really, at the end of the day, is it safe? In my opinion, something like that would not be safe. But in any event, the project needs to be completed because the roadway section is deteriorating over time. That pavement hasn't been repaved in probably 30 years, and there's concrete underneath it, and so the surface at least has to be done. But you don't want just mill and overlay and walk away. There's no drainage being taken care of. What about lighting? What about making it a little bit safer for that? And then to invite businesses, I don't know that a gravel surface roadway would really be that inviting, but I guess we may find out someday. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Next question, moving to water. How will you as mayor address water issues? We're starting with Gil.
Well, so this is a big deal, right? So this summer, we noticed our surface water irrigation was spotty and the delivery, and it ended earlier and started later. So that affects what kind of crops we can grow. And if you have a well, you have more options with a well. Not many people have a well, but if you have alfalfa fields, and if you don't get it at least every 2 weeks, you might have a problem. And so I've been interested in other kinds of crops, and I know Joshua at the Agri-Nature Center has been experimenting with sorghum, which I have used before, which is you can grow a lot of feed for livestock with that, but there are other opportunities to do that sort of thing for agriculture. And trees are very important. We need to keep our trees growing because that helps lower the temperature, makes it feel nice in the valley. So we have to have our priorities straight for water. I wish we could store our surface water and say it's only get 20% of our surface water and put it in a tank and then distribute it for our crops as we see fit. That could help our situation as well. Thank you.
Thank you. George, how will you as mayor address water issues?
I've got to say something first. I may have misspoke. I wasn't talking about gravel roadways on the north part of 4th Street. I was talking about gravel sidewalks. So apologies, Mayor. That's not what I meant. I've been involved in the water conservation movement for about 35 years. I started the Xeriscape movement with 5 other people. I've been running a conference on water conservation called the Land and Water Summit since 1987. I consulted with the City of Albuquerque and the Water Utility Authority about Xeriscape and about native plants and about plant lists many, many years ago. I think what the village needs is to save as much water as we can on site. We need to use green stormwater infrastructure in any way possible. It's also called low impact development. We also need to use native crops. I think native food crops are an area that the village could really capitalize on and perhaps start to get people to look at. The last thing is, I think we need to find ways to irrigate that aren't just flood irrigation, because it's going to come to that in the future, and the water supplies are getting lesser and lesser as we move into the future and global warming becomes more of a problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Don.
There are 2 problems with water in New Mexico. First of all, water is the lifeblood of New Mexico. Without water, you can't irrigate. Without water, you don't have enough to drink and do what you need to do. The Water Authority is doing a pretty good job. They have a 100-year plan, and right now Albuquerque is in pretty good shape when it comes to surface water for drinking water from the dam that I designed on the Rio Grande. The problem that Middle Rio Grande Conservancy District has, they thought El Vado Dam was going to be finished by 2025. Then they told me this summer 2026. Now I'm being told 2028. That means the surface water in the ditches is going to be very, very spotty. What that actually means is all of the farmers in the village and everybody who grows something is going to have to really save water, use drip irrigation. I've already talked to Josh O'Halloran, our agricultural program manager. He's looking very, very hard at crop rotation, whether or not you can even plant something because you may not have the water. And so at the end of the day, we have to save the water that we have. In other countries, they use 30% of the water that we use here in the United States. We're just going to have to get a lot smarter when it comes to water conservation. Thank you.
Joe?
Okay, I get an hour and a half on this, is that correct? It's water, water, water. I mean, that's a major issue. One of the things that we have worked on, I've worked on, are conservation easements for our, help our community, our farmers get that. The Kellys have done that on their project, fabulous, but it costs money. We need to preserve our fields and our rural atmosphere here in a odd time of climate change, I guess. We need to work with the ABC, or not ABC, but Karen Dunning and MG, the Middle Rio Grande Conservancy District, on how we preserve our trees and our fields. The city of Albuquerque did a zero-scaping. It wasn't a zero-scaping. They pulled out all the gravel. I mean, they put in gravel, all the trees died. So your temperatures go up 10 degrees. Everything is related. The city's back now paying people to plant trees. We have to protect our low valley environment because we add oxygen, we add lower temperatures with our agriculture and our acequias, which are fabulous. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Okay, we're moving on to planning and zoning. The mayor is responsible for appointing members to the Planning and Zoning Commission. If you're elected mayor, what criteria will you use to select suitable people to serve on the Planning and Zoning Commission? We're starting with George.
The Planning and Zoning Commission is really important. We need to find people that understand planning and zoning. So I would first ask the people of Los Ranchos who they might know and who they might suggest for planning and zoning commissioners. I would also look at the existing planning and zoning commissioners because there may very well be talented and skilled people in the commission right now. I know some of them. We need to find people that understand code. We need to find people that understand building. We need to find people that understand engineering, planning, even landscape architecture. And so all of those, along with the legalities of code, need to be part of the Planning and Zoning Commission as we move into the future.
Thank you. Don?
I would like to see more diversity on the Planning and Zoning Commission. We've got women, we have a Hispanic person there, maybe even more than one. But the point I'm trying to make is during the time I've been mayor, I have been able to find highly qualified people to serve on the P&Z. Remember, they are volunteers. They don't get paid anything, but they do it because they love the village of Los Ranchos. They want to do what's right for the village of Los Ranchos. I have 2 vacancies right now. I have to figure out how to bring in 2 more highly qualified people. I said this a few weeks ago. If there are residents in the village who either want to serve or they know somebody that should serve or could serve, please come see me. Come see me as soon as possible, and I'll figure out a way to appoint you on the P&Z. The P&Z is critical. The decisions that are made there will affect the future of the village of Los Ranchos. Thank you.
Thank you. Joe?
Thank you. P&Z is very important. I went on in 2013 after griping at Mayor Larry Abraham because how dark 4th Street was. And after the second time, he said, hey, come on, you got to get on P&Z. We're going to do some LED lights and that'll be it. Well, it morphed into the big thing we had. It took me about 2 years to figure out what's going on in planning and zoning. My business is marketing for the built environment, so I have a lot of knowledge about the environment, but I felt that we didn't really get trained. And I think that's a problem with our planning and zoning people now. They need good training. We've got, I think, a good planning and zoning director and staff. It's been really hard. They need to also be trained on how to interact with people because it's stressful. It's your house, it's your life, it's your project. We need to work with them, and it's very important. Thank you.
Thank you. Gil?
I was on planning and zoning for 2 years, and it didn't take me 2 years to figure out how that worked. Training is fine. There's no issue with training. I would say it's a good idea. It's hard to find people to serve on that board, and when I talk to people, if I see somebody that I think would be a good candidate, I always ask them if, hey, would you like to get involved? And I pass those names on to the village as potential people. Certainly you have to be ethical, right? And you have to understand your job is not to set policy. And you're gonna, sometimes it's a little tough because you're telling people no, that they can't do something. And sometimes you know these people. And it doesn't feel good to say no to people that are your neighbors or through some other connections. But yes, reading the code, there's a lot to that. So you have to be willing to do that and study it. And you get, like the mayor says, you don't get paid anything. So sometimes it feels like it's a really thankless job, but you learn a lot about how the village works. And I think if you want to run to be a trustee, and this is a good place to start. So thanks, that's all I have.
Thank you, gentlemen. Next question. What would you as mayor do to promote schools in the village? We'll start with Joe. Excuse me, we'll start with Don.
Yeah.
Don.
Los Ranchos Elementary is the school that my mother, I went there, my late wife went there, my daughters went there. That is a community school. And today, I have my agricultural program manager and my animal control officer going to Los Ranchos Elementary for Genius Hour, 1 hour every single week. And they go there and they teach the kids about gardening. They bring animals. They actually brought a chicken to the classroom yesterday afternoon. They really did. The point I'm trying to make is we work very, very closely with Los Ranchos. We haven't worked that closely with Taft or Taylor. Years ago, I knew those people very well. I don't know them at all now. Today, at the Agri-Nature Center, we had Alvarado there. Alvarado School, their 3rd and 4th graders were there. They decorated a trailer. That trailer is going to be used during the Fall Festival, which begins on Saturday, and it'll be from 10 to 4. So the commitment to help our schools and to work with them is unwavering. Like I said, the community school concept is fantastic, and I really will do everything I can to continue the relationship and to make it even better than it is today. Thank you.
Thank you. Joe.
Thank you. Our schools are extremely important. I think we have now 6. We had 7 schools here in Los Ranchos. We've not really had that much interaction with them. One of my major projects is Yes for Our Children's Future with APS. I've worked with them for about 20 years to help promote our schools. I went to Los Ranchos, Taft Valley, UNM. My wife, Pam, was a teacher in all of our Valley schools. My son, Davin, went through the same system, and he has 4 degrees after that. It's a good system. We need to help the kids. You got a lot of kids that are on free breakfast and free lunches. We need to help there. I've yet to see, other than a conversation about Los Ranchos doing things, the other schools. We need to have them interacting. We need to have our school board member talking with us. What can we do with Taft? What can we do with Taylor? It's important, and things are changing on us. The basis of a school is the foundation of our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Gil.
So I'll speak about Los Ranchos Elementary, but the same thing applies to Taft and Taylor. So Los Ranchos Elementary is just pretty special because it's our namesake school, and my kids went there. And it's also a community school. And if you want to improve schools, it's pretty simple. Get involved. I did hands-on science at Los Ranchos. My wife was on the PTA. And you know, what I've noticed is people that live here, if you have financial means, you worry about the quality of school, and so you're likely to send your kids to private school. I would say this, that Los Ranchos Elementary is a very safe school. It's a good place to start. And like the mayor says, you get involved. If you're the mayor, you should go there. If you have special talents, you talk to the kids. You inspire kids. You bring music to the schools. You just introduce them to a lot of different things. And if we could do that, I think you'll see people saying, hey, I could save, $30,000 and have my kids go to school here, and and they can play with the kids they go to school with in the community. So that's all I have.
Thank you. George, what would you as mayor do to promote schools in the village?
So Los Ranchos doesn't have any schools that we have any control over other than through APS. So I think the first thing I would do is talk to all of the schools in Los Ranchos first. I'd also talk to APS about what their plans are for our schools and see what we can do to make our schools more village-centric. I'd also go to the board and talk to our board members to see if we can kind of together try to determine what Los Ranchos schools will be in the future. Another thing that is not school specific is I really like what we're doing at the Agri-Nature Center, and that kind of learning is important not just for younger students but also for older students. And so I think we need to continue doing the work that they're doing at the Agri-Nature Center and even improve upon it. I think that's all I have to say about that.
Thank you, gentlemen. Okay, this will be our last question of the night before we move on to closing remarks. So this is about transparency in general. Mayor, the Village Council and administration are facing citizen complaints about growth. How would you go about increasing transparency on future projects? And another way of saying that is, how will the community know what's happening going forward? Transparency. The first person to answer will be Joe.
One of the main complaints I believe I have about the village of Los Ranchos is lack of transparency. We have a great Village Vision magazine that has been not used as it should be. We probably spend $150,000 a year on it. It could be a very good vehicle. My statement for a number of years is that social media is extremely important and it's cheap. We have Facebook. I promote our businesses on our Friends of Los Ranchos Facebook, and I've been doing it for a number of years. I've talked to a lot of the businesses. Vernon's great folks, Keith Baird, and he's going, well, my people don't look at Facebook. And I'm going, well, what do you care? Their money's green. Get people in. And he started doing that. Dave's, the same with Dave's Grill. We need to get out what's going on, not only in our businesses, but our community, and how do people get to talk with us. We need to have people come in and train our staff. The NMDOT hired a guy from...
That's fine. I think that's well worth doing. We do have a website, of course, and not, everybody has busy lives, so they're not going to be jumping on that all the time. I proposed having monthly meetings in between our Board of Trustees meetings where we can have real dialogue with the citizens instead of just the public comment, the 2-minute public comment that they might get at the Board of Trustees meetings. That seems to fall flat when somebody makes a statement that they think is important and there's no response. I listened to that, by the way, but there's a lot to do on that day, so I think we need to have a separate meeting for dialogue. I'm not afraid of the people. I get out there and I talk to people. People stop me. I mow my own lawn. They see me out there. I walk around. And so I do my best to make myself available. I respond to emails. I think the more transparency more transparent we are, and we're better, it makes us better communicators, and we're likely to not get ourselves in the situation that we find ourselves in with this, the palindrome issue. Thank you, that's all.
Thank you. George?
I've been asking for more transparency, on public projects since I've been a trustee. I've talked about having public meetings at almost every meeting, every trustee meeting. I think we need to bring all projects to the public in a very robust way. I think everybody needs to have a say in what those projects are going to be doing. I've probably been in some ways the odd man out over the past 2 years as a trustee because I often don't know about projects that are coming to the trustees until they come to us. I haven't heard about some of the projects that have been brought to us until that time. I think we also need to have more time to look at our trustee packages so we can get more learned about what we're looking at, because it will increase transparency as well. I think we need to be proactive about transparency, not reactive about transparency. And I do think the Village Vision is a good opportunity to use for more transparency. If I become mayor, we will be a very transparent organization. I promise you.
Thank you. Don?
The Village Vision costs $50,000 a year, and the Village Vision does provide a lot of information to the village residents of Los Ranchos. But it might not get to the point, and maybe that's what everybody's saying. Transparency, an engaged community is an informed community. By keeping residents in the loop and inviting them to participate in discussions, we ensure that our decision-making processes remain transparent and accountable. In response to calls from the citizens of Los Ranchos for more citizen participation, especially concerning housing density issues in the C1 BC zone and the pilot conservation ordinance, we established the Citizens Advisory Committee. This committee comprises of dedicated community members who have volunteered their time and expertise to address these issues. Every resident in Los Ranchos is invited to come to one of those meetings. They occur every 2 weeks. Trustee Radnovich has come, Trustee Gil Benavides has come, and the bottom line is we can do a better job. We really can. I have told people that from May 6th of 2018 to the 8th of June 2022, there were many meetings about palindrome and the pilot conservation, but no one came to the meetings and said, we don't want this, we don't like this. They didn't come. All of a sudden, everything exploded on the 8th of June 2022, and now we have this laundry list of basically lawsuits against the village. So that's perhaps a lesson learned. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Gentlemen, thank you so much. There were 4 questions from the audience that we didn't get to, so I'm just going to kind of skim them so that you guys can maybe talk to those folks afterwards. 1, what will you do to preserve wildlife habitat and open spaces in the village and keep our semi-rural atmosphere? 2, what would you as mayor do to promote safety in the village? 3, what specific measures would you push to slow down vehicles on Ortega, El Pueblo, Rio Grande, and Chavez roads? And 4, what will the village of Los Ranchos look like in 10 years? What will 4th Street look like in 10 years? So those are questions you can, ponder. And in closing, we're going to give everybody 2 minutes. And we will start that. Just 1 second. We will start that with Don.
Thank you.
Now.
Okay, new public open space. I am most proud of our efforts to secure the Anderson Fields, 23 acres and a historic home in one of the most important view sheds in all of New Mexico. Together with the Agri-Nature Center that's adjacent to that property, we now have 50 acres of contiguous public land and forever open space. And the land acquisition fund created in my administration
Don,
keeps
can
growing.
you speak a little closer to the mic so folks can hear you?
Trying. Thank you.
Thank you.
Also, there's an emphasis on agriculture. Agriculture is critical to the future of the village of Los Ranchos because we must maintain our agricultural heritage for future generations. My administration has taken agriculture education to the next level. We have increased the lectures and workshops at the Agri-Nature Center, introduced livestock to the fields, developed an outdoor kitchen classroom for farm-to-table demonstration and hands-on learning. As far as safety is concerned, we have a really significant MOU with Bernalillo County Sheriffs. And I talk to them essentially every single day. And I believe that the patrols that are going on are really are being very effective. But that doesn't mean we stop there. Bottom line is, I think we're fairly safe compared to the city of Albuquerque. You don't really see homeless hanging out in the village of Los Ranchos because they're escorted off the property. And at the end of the day, I believe that the future of the village, the future 10 years from now on 4th Street and the rest of the village, it has to be quite similar to what we have today. We have to have safe streets, a safe community, but we must maintain our agricultural heritage. That, I believe, is critical. Thank you.
Thank you. George, your closing.
The village really needs a lot of healing, and we need to talk to each other a lot more than we have in the past. So one of the things I would bring is my ears, listening to everyone and what your thoughts are about the village in a civil way. The second thing that I think is very important that I would work on, as I mentioned earlier, is comprehensive planning. Our master plan does nothing for us. If we did a comprehensive plan, it would be a strategic plan that would plan out the phases of growth or no growth, or slow growth even. It would allow us to go to the state of New Mexico and get monies that aren't just DOT monies. Another thing that I think is important is that we got to recognize that the village is different than other villages in New Mexico. We are on the edge of the largest city in the state. We're more like Mesilla probably than anywhere else. So we have those big city impacts from 4th Street and from 2nd Street that's close by. And we need to deal with those. And so we're at a real crossroads about who we want to be when we grow up and where we go. And I think listening to each other and trying to figure that out together and plan to have the same kinds of ideas about the village that our forefathers and foremothers had when we started the village. We want to keep that culture, and we are different than places like Corrales, and we need to make that diverse culture more cohesive than it has been in the past. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Gil, your closing.
Yes, I'm an ethical person. I'm not conflicted with Palindrom, and I'm not conflicted with 4th Street revitalization. I do have to point out that George Radnovich with Sites of Southwest was a prime contractor to the Phase 1, and he's not a part of Phase 2. And so I don't know why it was okay to revitalize the first phase, but not the second phase. I think it would be a huge mistake to not carry that momentum. Maria Rinaldi is excellent at knowing how to get money from the state. No, we're not chasing the money. This is something that we need. We need it to slow down traffic on 4th Street, make it safer, and that is actually part of the solution for helping to keep the traffic off of Chavez, Ranchitos, El Pueblo, and Ortega. People are screaming about speed bumps. They want them now. So if people want them, we should give it to them. I want to be your mayor because I think I have the better vision. I want to make the village safe. I want more officers to patrol the village. I want to keep the residential areas as rural as possible, which means people don't want sidewalks. I get it. We don't want sidewalks in the interior. We want to keep our agricultural aspect to the village as healthy as possible and connect with the Agri-Nature Center. So 30 years from now, it's hard to project, but I think I'd like to see my kids living here someday. And I think they will value the same things that I did. I think it'll be green, it'll be shady, and they can hear animals in the morning if they want to, or they want to have a horse, they can do that. If they want to grow chili like I do, or they want to grow grapes, they can do that. So please, thank you very much.
Thank you. Joe.
Thank you. My closing statement. As The Friends of Los Ranchos, we have supported open space for our village and trails. We have led the purchase of over $20 million worth of open space. This is important to our people. We have to preserve it, keep it. We have to keep communication with our residents. We've failed at that. And we've got, I think the first thing you're going to have to look at is how do we talk and listen to our residents. Finally, we're not talking about our businesses. These lights, this building, are paid for by our gross receipts tax from our businesses. 60 designation businesses. I mean, we can go from Los Poblanos, Z-Coil, all the way out to Casa Benavides, and I wish Farm to Table was in our village, but they're just slightly out of it. They are part of our environment, though. We have to promote our businesses to keep our village and our community going. It's important. Our people, our environment, and our community. And I've been doing it. We're going to keep doing it. And thank you all for your help.
Thank you, gentlemen. On behalf of the League of Women Voters of Central New Mexico and the Village of Los Ranchos, we thank you so much, audience, for participating tonight. An informed and effective democracy does not happen without you, as all of you know. Thank you so much for coming. As you can see, there's a whole village of Los Ranchos, and there's only you guys who showed up. So thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it. As a reminder, the League's voter guide is available online. October 19th, tomorrow starts early voting, and it ends November 2nd. Tuesday, November 5th is Election Day. And finally, we would like to thank the candidates. We would like to thank the candidates not only for their participation tonight, but also for just running for office. We know this isn't easy. We know it's not easy to answer any question under the sun in 90 seconds. So thank you. Don, George, we're talking to you too. Thank you, guys.
You did a great job. Thank you.
Then they have the